Hello. Thanks, Deb. I was trying to get through a drink of water
I was
first.
like, we started recording and he drinks water. I'll
This is a real
start.
quick sip. Come on. That's okay. I've actually been choking on water one time, and did it stop, Deb? No, not at all. She just kept talking, like I was like, he'll be fine. And if he's not, then I have a solo show by myself.
I thought you
So
were, I thought you were laughing at me though. I didn't know you were choking.
no, I was on the verge of death. That's fine though. You can talk to my wife and kids if I croak on the podcast. You let them know what happened.
That was just strategy. She was filling in because she knew you were down. So she's making
Exactly.
sure still going on.
See, our guest is way kinder than I am. This is not how it normally goes. Anyways, today we have an awesome guest. We have an entrepreneur, a blogger, an influencer, even though I don't know if you guys like that term. Just
No,
an all around awesome person, Melissa Cole. What's going on?
Good to be here.
We are excited to have you back. It's, I didn't even time this. I was telling Deb, you were on almost a year ago because I had you and your husband, Trav, who's, I think this has the second most appearances on this podcast next to my brother. You guys were on about a year ago talking about Valentine's Day stuff. And I'm like, oh, this is perfect timing.
A year ago, I had no idea. I thought it was like sooner than that. Wow.
I did too. I know time really flies. And now I don't want to, we have a bunch of questions for you about what you do and everything that goes with that, but I have to ask. I'm going to start this thing off hot because you have been on the podcast before, so I don't have to ease into it. Okay. And I feel like you're a very honest person. So I'm expecting an honest answer from you. Okay. Yeah. Scale of 1 to 10. How much do you hate me when I ask your husband to be on this podcast? Be honest, because he's alluded to a couple of times where he's like, oh, you're doing another podcast with Josh. Scale of 1 to 10. 1 being like, it's not a big deal. 10 is like, if I had a chance to kill him, he'd be done.
No, you know what it is? The thing with Trav that I love, if he loves someone, he will, like I told you, Josh, he loves you. He respects you a lot and he thinks you're such a good person, which you are. But when he finds someone like that, he loves to invest time into that and time into that person and to, show them that he appreciates them. And so I think that that's part of his reasoning behind always wanting to talk to you because he really looks up to you as a person. And so I have to admire that about him because I think that is admirable. So, but time wise, I mean, he does it like late at night. So it's not that big of a deal, I guess. If I've made an issue of it, that's my bad.
I'm just kidding. But if it was a scale of 1 to 10, so are we looking at like a 3?
So like, I really am going to get an answer here.
100%.
You're not getting out of this.
No, I need a number.
3 as far as like how bugged I am? Is that
like how much you hate me? It's like, oh, Josh again.
I don't hate. No, not at. Hey, listen, here's a prime example. I said yes to this, or I committed to this. So obviously there's a little bit of mutual respect here. So obviously I'm not.
That's a good point.
Obviously I'm in support of your guys' podcast.
That's a good point. All right. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. And I feel like I said, I know you're honest. So I feel like that was an honest answer.
That was.
All right. I'll take it.
That was my honest answer of reflecting my own heart and being like, Melissa, were you giving him a hard time? And then I was like, yeah, it's your bad actually.
No, not at all. Are you kidding me? We were just talking about thick skin before we started recording. I have incredibly thick skin. And so I also love joking with people. So 100% a joke. I don't think you actually hate me. And if you do hate me, you did an excellent job lying to my face. So we'll move on.
I get this type of talk from him every single time we record, Melissa. So I was going to jump in and say, ignore him. He just wants you to say something bad about him, but then it just kind of kept going. So
I appreciate the honesty because like I said, I'm an honest person. So let me have it. I like the honesty on all angles.
Perfect. All right. Perfect. Yeah. You guys should feel bad for my poor wife because she's had this in her life for a very, very long time.
And my poor husband. So I totally,
See, there we go. Okay. Anyways, enough of that nonsense. Usually we start off the show by explaining how we're connected to our guests. But, if you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that, like I just said, I used to work for your husband, Trav. And then you were kind enough to join us about a year ago for a Valentine's Day episode where you guys kind of shared your story, which was a lot of fun. Also, I told Travis the other day, you provided a top 3 clip. I've done podcasting for 4 years. Easily a top 3 clip for me, which was when you told the story about how Trav said he could get any girl he wanted. By far the best clip I've ever posted. easily top 3, maybe even top 1. So I appreciate that.
It's a great story.
It's an amazing story. I love sharing that one, but that's how we're connected. But I wanted to have you back on the show because last time we talked about you guys and your marriage and relationship, but today I wanted to focus more on you and what you do as an influencer, because you have an incredible following on social media. You've been doing it for quite a while. So just take us back a little ways. Like, how did you get into this whole world? And like, how did you get to the point where you're at right now?
So I think it's been 9 years. I kind of got my foot into the door before influencing / blogging is what it is today. I mean, when I started, excuse me, I had my friends asking me, so what are you doing? Because I definitely knew that there was something there. It hadn't blown up to what it is today, but I knew that there was an opportunity there. I started on Instagram, and still that's my main platform that I, engage with people and also revenue and all that. So I started there and just really started posting pictures of my kids. I kind of liked like the artsy side of it, the creative photography side, and was really just doing it for myself for a little bit. And then, like I said, once I realized that there was an opportunity there, I was like, whoa, what's this? So just kind of continued down that road. And it's really interesting because now, I truly do think that if you want a business in this world, you can make that happen a lot easier than you can back in the day. Well, I mean, there's a lot to that, but with that said, what I mean is there's a lot more opportunities today. Back when I started, I did what I did without any pay for 1 to 2 years. And it was because I was like, it was, I was just getting started and it wasn't as, blown up as it is today. There weren't as many opportunities. But I also loved it. And that was the main thing. I mean, I had a friend ask me, before I started, so if you could do anything, what would you do? And I said, I think I'd start a fashion blog. And it wasn't even like, on my radar, to be honest. And he's a huge entrepreneur, Eric Knopf, for anybody who's listening, who knows who he is. He's kind of in the capital world, but anyway, so he kind of ignited that. And, that's kind of how I got started. And like I said, I did what I did for 1 to 2 years without any pay and really just loved it and knew that there was an opportunity down the road, and it kind of just led into what it is today. And so, but with that said, I mean, because there wasn't as much competition, once I was able to kind of get my foot in the door, I was able to be very, fortunately be very, successful in doing what I did or am doing. So yeah, that's kind of the start of it. And like I said, I think it's been, 9 years, maybe going on 10.
Dang, that's crazy. It's been that long.
A long time. Yeah. My oldest son was 1. My very first picture I posted was like a 4th of July outfit. I remember it. I will pull it out every once in a while. So, yeah, it's been a long time.
Awesome. Has your style changed over the years, or like, how would you say?
Totally. Yes.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Yeah, totally. And like I said, things change like so much. So like when I started, it was literally the square Instagram where you had like borders and like maybe like 5 filters to choose from. And like, we're talking like old Instagram days, and things evolve and things change. And now, like, if you post pictures, they don't even show the pictures of people. Now it's like reels, if you're not keeping up with reels. So I mean, my audience is like there. They've been with me for a long time. So I don't really have to like follow a lot of the rules that some people do, like just getting into it just because I have that loyal following that's been with me for so long. And stories is kind of like my bread and butter. But yes, things have changed. I've changed. What I've shared has changed. The industry has changed. It's just an ever evolving industry, and who knows what it's going to look like in, another couple of years. That's social media for you. But it's an interesting world.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Well, I mean, there's so much that, and we've obviously used social media for a long time. Even prior to doing a podcast, we're familiar with social media, but I'm terrible when it comes to the trends and trying to keep up with all these different things. And just recently we started doing some more of that stuff, and it makes me like my head want to explode because I feel like I'm so far behind, and now I'm jumping in the middle of the ocean. Like, I got to figure this out. So I imagine for you, because you've kind of started from the very beginning, Do you feel like it's like picking up those trends is a little bit easier, or do you feel like you're constantly racing to try to figure out what the next thing is?
I think that I think it's a little bit of I'm kind of like you. I'm trying to, keep up with them. However, like I said, because I got started when I did, I definitely have that in my favor as far as like I have my group of people that have been with
Sure.
me and that are loyal to me. And so kind of like no matter what I do, I don't have to like make sure I'm doing this and make sure I'm doing that. And like I told like for instance, I don't post enough reels. Like I know that. There's people that are, trending and getting more followers because of it, but like I'm very content with where I'm at. I love my people. I kind of like, and we can get into this too, but like I actually don't want to even grow that much just because of what I talk about tends to be a little bit more, like I can get a lot of hate sometimes and everybody's going to agree with me. And like, it's just, I've kind of just gone down that road and I've kind of opened up that door myself. And so I'm kind of at a place where I'm like, my people love me and I love my people and we're good. And like, I'm successful in what I'm doing. So like financially. So yeah, it's always a learning curve, but I'm content, but always learning. I don't know. It's just the never ending social media world.
Right. I have so
Yeah.
many questions right now, but go ahead, Deb. I don't want to.
No, yeah, me too. I mean, like Josh said before we hit the record button, you mentioned how like, you got to have thick skin and got like, I mean, comparatively, even like, I don't know, I have like 2 followers, but sometimes even when I post something, I'm like, like, I just, like, I don't know how are people going to respond to it, whatever, but luckily, no one, I don't have enough people, but
Yeah.
so I can't imagine how, you have all the, you have all these followers and people love to just say whatever they want to say. People love to hide behind, their keyboard or whatever. So we've gotten a few comments on YouTube just
Well, I bet.
yeah,
It's
like
starting to happen,
it's
which
starting
makes
to
us
happen.
laugh
We're
now.
like,
But
YouTube is actually more brutal, believe it or not. So TikTok is even more brutal. Instagram is probably the most minor. That people don't realize that, but TikTok is very brutal because it brings in a younger generation, and they just tend to be more brash. And then YouTube is really bad too. So yeah, that doesn't surprise me. But see, there you go. You guys don't even talk about things that you wouldn't even think that you'd get hate on, right? Like. I mean, it's just the social media world. Like you put yourself out there and you're going to get a plethora of opinions, So, thankfully, I mean, yeah, I do have thicker skin. And I had to grow thicker over the years, and especially because I share what I share. And I mean, whatever, we can get into that. But I think part of the reason why it doesn't bother me as much is because I like as cheesy as it may sound, like in some ways I feel called to share what I share. So doing what I do, obviously, like it brings in revenue and it's a huge business, but I also feel like it's been a ministry for me for so many years, ever since the beginning. And I've shared, even just like, I mean, not as much controversial before, but like, I shared, so like I told you, I started when my oldest son was 1. So it was a lot of like in the trenches of motherhood and just like almost being like vulnerable about like the hard stuff, because motherhood is so hard. And I'm kind of in a different phase now where my kids are a little bit older and I don't share them as much. And it's just not the same, like, I don't know, like that, I don't know, PTSD or postpartum is what I'm trying to say.
sure.
That was a lot harder for me. And so I was very honest and vulnerable about that. And anyway, so I've kind of done that from the beginning. And it's kind of led into what I share now. But I mean, that doesn't stop people from saying those unkind things. But at the same time, I feel like I almost like invite it in a sense. So I can't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know how like closely you guys follow what I share, but I definitely say some things that I know are going to rub people the wrong way, and it's okay. Like it is what it is. So for me, I'm just, and I don't get me wrong, it's not like I don't have bad days. I mean, gosh, even like my friends that are bloggers who don't share as much as I do, when 2020 hit that summer, when all the social justice and all that stuff was going on. I mean, you could not win no matter what side you were on. If you were in the social media world, you were getting slammed left and right. So every influencer, every blogger has been through the ringer the past couple of years. And I think that's kind of why some people like run from like sharing anything personal, because they're like, that's it. Like, I can't handle it anymore. There was no right, there was no wrong. But yeah, what I do is I share a little bit more than I think like the average fashion influencer, I guess you would say.
Right. Well, yeah, and that's one of the things, and I think I mentioned this in the email I sent you. That was one of the things I really wanted to focus on with this podcast because, yeah, I do follow. We obviously follow you on social media, and so we understand the things that you post that would be considered to some controversial. And the interesting thing, and I've told my wife this a couple times over the last few months, because I was hoping to get you on the podcast. So one of the things that I told her, I said, I really appreciate and respect what you do because, and I'm sure you could speak more to this. I think people in your position might feel the desire to share something personal or share their thoughts on, whether it be a social justice thing, a political thing, anything, anything and everything. They may feel the desire to do it. Right. But then they do it. And then the backlash comes and they might, like yourself, have lost partnerships and it starts affecting the bank account. And then all of a sudden I was like, well, maybe I don't want to do this, which is fine. But then I think it takes away some of the power of what you're saying. And then I think it takes away some of the connection you have with your audience. Cause like, wait a minute, hold on. So you're saying once the dollars start going away, now you don't feel as strongly about that anymore. And I think it's easy for me to say, I'll say it, it's easier for me to say, but I do think as a follower of people who do that type of thing, it takes away some of the power of what they're saying. And so the thing I respect about what you're doing is that you don't do that. And you've been very clear. It's like, hey, another sponsor or another partnership gone. Well, here's another thought of mine. It's not like it slows you down, but you keep doing it. Right. And so I appreciate that because it's harder to follow someone who doesn't do that. Right. It's like, you really mean what you say. And I can tell that even though, we don't know each other very well, just from what I see on social media, it's like, okay, she actually believes and buys into what she's saying, because otherwise that money is too good. Like, why would you let it go out the door? Right. Some people are like begging, like, no, please come back, so I appreciate that about you. And so it's a very interesting world you live in because, that's kind of stuff that happens, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate that. I always say too, like I said, I've been doing this for quite a bit. So I have some really good friends in the industry, and I've always told them, it's not what I do is not, and they know this, but I guess I just kind of feel like reassuring them, like what I do, because a lot of us share the same beliefs. And so we'll talk about stuff all the time behind the scenes. So I'm just the one that's like very vocal about things. And I'm like, you guys know, like, I understand like why people don't, like, this is your guys' business. This is my business. Sure. This is your guys' business. We've been at this for a very successful business for a long time. And this could, gosh, like I said, it's so, there's pluses and minuses to both, just like you said. It can affect things. But anyways, yeah, so I've told them, I've even made it clear, because I do have a lot of bloggers that watch me, and I think sometimes they're like, kind of just like seeing, like what I share to see if, what happens from there. And so I don't want other people in my industry to ever think like I expect them to do A, B, C, D because I'm doing that. Like I said, I feel like I've been called to this space in a different way than others have. And it's something that I'm very passionate about on a lot of different ends. And thankfully I love what I do. So there's a lot of different, details to it that isn't just like, it's just my job. I see it as a lot more than that. So.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I just a comment to add what we were talking about earlier with just having thick skin. I feel like today you can't say anything anyway. Like, I feel like anything you say is going to offend somebody.
Yes.
And so maybe sometimes things that I post or talk about, I don't post or talk about too many controversial things. A lot of it is just within the teaching world. I think I posted something about the Roe v. Wade thing a while ago. I don't know, but sometimes I'm like, ugh. And at the same time, I'm like, I'm going to offend somebody. So who cares? Let me just say, I guess what I want to say, without trying, I just try not to put other people down, like while I'm doing it, but as long as I can, what I believe in and what I want, I'm like, yeah.
For sure. The more and the more exposure you get, the more followers you get, the more people, I mean, the more different varying of opinions and controversy and, hate, if you will, that you will get. It's just the nature of the game. And so, again, that's why I'm like, I don't, I'm not here to get millions and millions of followers. Like, really, that's like not my goal. I'm like content in what I'm doing. I'm happy with what I'm doing. I'm happy that, I talk to so many people and they're like, not to pat myself on the back, just like, thank you for this or thank you for that. Like, that means so much more to me than just like a paycheck. Like I said, it's the whole package for me. So, if it means, I don't want to offend people. I don't want to tick people off, but, at the end of the day, it's a lot more than just a paycheck for me. So that's what I'll continue to do.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I think, you guys always just feel like a very down to earth family, even though you guys are very successful with what you do. And I mean, like the reality of it is you're probably making a lot more money than most of the people that are following you. Right. And so there is like, I'm a huge hip hop fan, and I know I've heard people talk about like Jay-Z before, right? Like he started from, selling drugs and doing all that stuff. And now he's a, billionaire. Right. And so you get to a certain point when he's making music, it's kind of like, I can't really relate to what you're saying anymore because we're at very different levels now.
Right.
Is there ever any, like, I guess one, have you ever experienced that where you got to a point where you were so successful where it was becoming tougher for people to relate with different things that you were doing? And if not, then like, how did you kind of maintain that level of connection with your audience to make sure it's like, hey, I'm really successful, but like, I still connect with you guys like on an everyday basis?
Yeah, that's really important to me. And I think that that's why I said I've been tried to be more vulnerable about things, because I never want people to think that I am above them or I am better than them or I have this and they don't.
Yeah,
I think because I know that I am successful in what I do, I have that in the back of my mind that I don't want someone following me who thinks that, they can't afford this or that or whatever, however they're comparing themselves, that or maybe I'm just showing good snippets, and not like a behind the scenes. So I've always, for that very reason, I have always tried to share a little bit of the crazy, if you will, to just make people feel a little bit more normal. So I can see both sides to that too. I can see, again, when you do that, you also kind of open up a can of worms. You get a lot more opinions, but then you also get a lot of like, thank you for, trying to showing us that you're real or showing us that you're normal. Like, sometimes they'll be like, I'm having a bad day. And like, they appreciate that, you're a real person. You're not just like
sure.
some person. You really are a person that has issues. And, I have 3 kids and I have a marriage and I'm a real person behind the screen, and they want to know that and they want to relate to you. So relatability is huge. In fact, back in the day, I don't really talk about it anymore, but that's literally the one thing that I used to hone in on anybody who wanted to grow in this industry was, and I feel like just me personally, I can only speak to how I feel like I was successful. It was being relatable and being vulnerable and honest. And so that's been something that I've really tried to do from the beginning. And I think I just don't show that side as much anymore, only because I've kind of gone to a little bit more of like, what I share these days are not, I don't even know what you want to call it. Real life happenings.
Sure.
Versus
Sure.
like behind the scenes. But yeah, in a sense, that's kind of like been one of my mottos.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. And I always felt like too, because I've heard people talk about that. Like, I was listening to a comedian's podcast the other day, and they're a pretty well-known comedian, and they're making a ton of money. And, he'll get a lot of comments. He's like, I get comments when I share me on a boat in Maui or me, going on these trips. It's like at a certain point, it's like I can't deal with this stuff. Cause like, I'm enjoying my life. Now, if you don't like it, I can't do anything about that. And if you do appreciate it, then maybe it will be inspiration to help you get to wherever you're trying to go to. Like, hey, this is possible because this guy did it. So it's more of it seems like more of an internal thing for I mean, that's what it's all is, right? The social media hate comes from some insecurity.
Fortunately, hurt people. And so
Sure.
something like that, like as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, well, that really just sounds like that person is struggling internally. That person who made that comment is, struggling one way or the other. And that's what it comes down to. So you have to learn to just, you don't even, you can't let those comments even get to you at all. Otherwise you'll eat yourself up if you think of every little thing that anybody says, because everybody's bringing in their own personal opinions and different life experiences and insecurities and whatnot. So yeah.
But you don't really clap back at people very often. I feel like you have like thoughtful responses, but like,
No.
at least that's not what I've seen.
I never hear that.
Oh, really? Maybe I'm not paying attention enough.
No, I appreciate you saying that. But I only say that because I am very strong-willed. Like, I'm a driver. And I'm known to like say what I think. I'm a very honest person. So I wouldn't respond the way that Travis would. We'll just put it like that.
Right. But
we're very different personalities.
Sure. But you wouldn't
no,
respond like, I guess again, this goes back to like the thick skin thing. Like because again, I'm a huge fan of stand-up comedy. I follow a lot of comedians. The way they respond to people, much different than the average person would. It's much meaner, right? Because they're like, okay, you're coming at me, you're gonna get it twice because you're dealing with a professional. So yeah, you're different than Trav for sure, but like you're not like mean. It's not personal with you. It seems like.
I've gotten mad. I've said things I regret. I'm not
Sure.
gonna lie. And later on, I was like, you know what? I should have just not said anything. But at the end of the day, too, like I think it's a reflection of you too. Like if I'm like, it shouldn't bother me. If it bothers me that much, that means that internally, I need to deal with something. Like, just let them be, because again, it comes down to what's going on with them and them reflecting that on me. So. Sure. Let it be. And at the end of the day, I think I have gotten better at letting things go and just being like, okay, I just won't say anything instead of saying anything at all. And actually, at the end of the day, that makes them more mad than not. They want a response. That's what they want. So
it's true. Yeah.
It's like dealing with my teenagers that I work with. They
pretty much.
Some of them just want a reaction.
Exactly. Totally. It is very true. It's just dealing with people. It's honestly, it's customer service. I always say, I feel like I live in a customer world. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it is tough. It is surprising because like Deb said, since we've started using shorts more on YouTube and posting more stuff, like it's definitely increased the visibility of certain clips that we post. And you do get some idiots that will comment something and say, why did you even take the time to comment? And I'll say, I'm a pretty patient person. I like I said, I have thick skin. I can laugh stuff off pretty easily. There have been a couple of times where I'm like sitting at the keyboard, like, how am I going to respond to this? Because sometimes they paint me in a corner. It's like, I can't, like, you didn't give me an opportunity to respond nicely, but I don't really I can't not respond to you either. What am I going to do? So it's tough sometimes. It's interesting.
Someone said something the other day, a comment on my thing, and I remember seeing it, and I was like, I honestly was like, okay, I guess I've kind of ground, because I was just like, oh, whatever. Like I didn't even delete it. And normally like I'll delete like, comments that are negative just because I'm like, I don't want to start, like anything negative. And I just left it. And I literally haven't even checked to see like if anybody liked it or commented more on it or anything. And I'm like, that's just people are gonna be people.
I guess that's a very nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
That's very nice. And you're a professional in this world. So yeah, everybody, if you're listening to that, just take her word for it. Like, people are gonna be people. Just let it go.
Because you can do it, because it says more about you,
Sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's true. Sorry, I had a thought and I just lost it. Go ahead, Deb. It will come back to me.
Have you had to like redo your like your Instagram, like rename or rebrand, or have you kept that same one for 10 years that you've been doing it?
Yeah. Oh, it actually was. So my original name was Mama Melly 5. And so my friends they joke, they call me Mama Melly. So yeah, that was, I changed it. Like, you can change your name within the same profile. You can just literally just change your username, and it was available. So kind of the name behind, or the reason behind my name. So Ella is my daughter. We intended to call my first son Brooklyn, but it didn't stick. Or I'm sorry, we intended to call him Brooks, and it didn't stick, and his name is Brooklyn. So Ella Brooks, and then our third, I always joke, he wasn't planned, which he wasn't. So I started when he wasn't alive, and it is what it is. So it's Ella Brooks Blog, and to change it now would just not be smart, because I've been in, everybody knows me as that, and I mean, people will like search out, like a lot of people don't even know my name. They just know me as Ella Brooks Blog. So I get Ella every day and it's all right. I've kind of branded myself at that.
Yeah.
That's funny. I was wondering about the third kid thing. Like that's gonna at some point like mom, like in therapy.
Yeah.
Why didn't they add me to the blog title, the handle?
He would be the one to care too. He would
Oh
be
no.
the one, he would be, yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen. Hopefully it doesn't happen because that would be a terrible thing. But that is interesting though. Like you said, like some people would probably just change it, back and forth, just kind of whenever they wanted to. But like you're at the point where it's like it's a branding thing. You can't do it because
Right.
you've hit that level, which is pretty cool. And it is pretty funny that I'm sure some people probably think your name is Ella Brooks.
All the time. All the time.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all right.
So
Don't even-
yeah, it's all good. They're checking in, right? That's the main thing. As long as they found you,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
I do like asking entrepreneurs this. So when you first started doing your thing, and like you said, you did the first 2 years without any pay, which is impressive. It's commendable because a lot of people would give up at that point or just be like, oh, it's kind of a waste of my time. So the fact that you stuck it out that long is awesome. But what was the feeling like the first time you got like a big boy paycheck where it's like, oh, this is cool. Like what was the feeling like when they first, put in the bank account and gave you the check? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it's funny because I remember specifically, Michelle Raby.
Yeah.
I remember talking with her because I was working at Capitol full time,
Mm-hmm.
administrative assistant there, working for a pastor at Capitol, and working full time, and then doing this on the side. And I, this wasn't a full time gig at all by any means, but it was, a lot of mental trying to figure it out, and then taking pictures and planning. And there is really a lot more that goes on behind the scenes than it really
Sure.
looks. I know it doesn't seem like it, but there is. But so I remember it was always my goal was to go full time. And so I got my first collaboration, and I think it was like $500. And I remember out, like I came to Michelle and her and I were talking about everything, and she's like, oh my gosh, you really do have a future in this. And I was like, I think so. And yeah, it was massive. I remember it's just funny. There's like certain moments that kind of like stick out to you, and that was one that I remember talking to Michelle about that, and that was when I was like, okay, I got this. So yeah. And then it kind of just took off from there. So
that's pretty cool. Yeah, we're still trying to figure out that when that day's gonna come. Right? Like I get excited if I found like someone left $1 as we're walking out of the recording studio. I'm like, ooh, look at this. Like that for me is like we made it. Found like an extra $1 somewhere. But yeah, I just can't even imagine because it's like it's not just I'm sure you explain this better. It's not just the money, right? It's not like, oh, this is a decent sized check. It's more like all that hard work, all that effort. It's like it's like the physical symbol of all of that coming together in one moment. Now the money's nice, but really I feel like it's got to be more than just the money at that point. Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And be like, okay, like this, we can do this. This is a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously now, because you like you said, you do, you're willing to share political things, social things, all of these different things you're willing to share on your platform. And I know, like I mentioned before, you have posted about how, hey, I just lost a partnership because of this post, or I lost a partnership because of that post. So at this point, you kind of understand, okay, this is something that's a very real possibility that some people, for whatever reason, may think we got to cut ties. And so moving forward, I don't know how often you connect with new companies and organizations, but like I don't know if you can explain this or share this, but like, what's your process as far as deciding who you work with? Because I imagine it's a lot tighter now than it used to be maybe like 6 years ago.
Yeah. So I don't think that my process would be any different as far as like, this is where it gets a little tricky is for the most part, I don't know. I've never canceled a brand or like gotten out of a brand or like not wanted to work with a brand based on their political preference.
Sure.
It's very like well known because things have happened the way that they've happened in the past couple of years, like influencers or bloggers or people like myself, like we're all kind of aware of like, okay, this brand kind of like really leans this way, or this brand kind of, we can kind of tell like based on like work with, and like that's okay if they have certain preferences in who they work with. The issues have been when they've worked with an influencer like myself and dropped us in the middle of a collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as picking brands or companies, there's nothing has changed for me. I am willing to work with most companies. There's going to be a lot of, like, I don't know if corruption is the right word, but there's going to be corruption in like a lot of large companies, and there's really no way to be like, oh, this person's like all bad or this one's, so I haven't changed as far as that goes. And really, I was dropped by one large brand. I haven't like vocalized who it is yet, because for a while I wasn't sure if I was going to press charges, because without going into like a ton of detail, it wasn't, in my opinion, and like a ton of people I've talked with, they're like, yeah, that wasn't like, it wasn't legit. Like it wasn't like legal, like what they did. They don't have the evidence to what they said that I didn't do. So that could potentially hurt them in the long run. I decided to drop it. And just to give you a little background, like how like my collaborations work, I get a lot of my jobs through this one company who's called Reward Style, and they have people like myself, influencers, and then they have brands that they work with. And so this particular brand was working, that's who I got I got the collab through them. And it was the middle company that notified me that this brand had canceled me. And so in talking with them and, trying to figure it all out, they're like, listen, like this probably won't be an issue in the future. We just like kind of like let it be, let the dust settle. And so I did, and it's looking pretty like that won't affect other collaborations in the future. You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
And to be honest, this is kind of crazy, but like these brands don't really watch like what you do closely. Like, I know I have a lot of people ask me like, how do you get away with like sharing some stuff? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of, they don't, they really, when it comes down to it, they look at numbers. That's what they care about. Are you performing? Are you bringing in money? That's what they care about. And as time has gone on, to be honest, brands are not as, I should say, they're not as picky about political stance or that kind of stuff as time has gone on, because they're realizing that it's such a common like issue of the day, and like it's just going to cause a lot of turmoil if you're constantly picking and choosing, and they didn't say this right, and it has turned around a lot of times and actually made the brand look bad versus the influencer that they canceled. So there's like a balance there. You have to be careful if you're going to make that decision. So I think a lot of brands have kind of stepped back and just being kind of like black and white and blunt about that, and really, given some grace. And are they bringing in, revenue? Was that collaboration successful? Okay, great. That's kind of like bottom line for them. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of a lot, but.
No, that's good. That's why we have you on the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Deb. I have one more follow-up question. I'm trying to let Deb talk too, but I have so many questions. So yeah, with that, it's interesting because I imagine that when if a company decided to kind of cut ties with someone for say a political reason, right? That seems like it just, from the outside looking in, it seems bizarre, because the likelihood of, for whatever that person says, so something you said, the chances, if they have that stance, the chances of that person's following, really caring or leave, they're not going to leave you. They're just going to leave the company. So it's not like it like you said, it's going to hurt the company only. And the people that that follow that company probably don't follow you. So it doesn't matter in the long run, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. It hurts the brand in the long run. It hurts
right.
them more.
Right.
It's happened to me twice. And the one, like, there was like a smaller company, and my people like went nuts. Like, they they went on like the brand and kind of like commented a lot of things, and like, they're just very, they're just like, if you're going to be black and white like this, like, we don't want to support you. So,
Sure.
I hundreds of messages like, we'll never support them again. And a lot of these were like loyal customers. So you're right. It's like, is it worth it? I don't know. At the end of the day, I don't think so, but also I'm not the one making the decision, from their standpoint. So
yeah, seems silly. Melissa Cole's rolling with an army. Let's never cross her, Deb, because our following is not that big on this podcast. We can't
Yeah.
we can't
I
take on that
worded
tack.
that how I worded it, just so you guys knew.
All right. That's it. No more dumb questions from me. Go ahead, Deb.
Oh my
You gotta be careful.
Right. What has been, I guess, aside from, having thick skin and like, the negative comments, at times, or whatever people are going to say what they want to say. I guess, what has been your biggest challenge it's a big question, because like the span of 9 years and you have a family and, like what's been your biggest challenge with what you do and your work? And I guess, how do you balance, the work?
My husband has been the biggest challenge.
Oh, is he still there? See, I knew it. He wants to be on the show so badly.
He just put the kids to bed.
Yeah.
No, actually, I think that might be kind of connected to that. I think the biggest issue, probably is related to my husband. It's been trying to like figure out how to like turn off work for me. Like I'm like a diehard, like I'm a very like black and white person. And when I'm like all in, like I'm like all in. And because I'm I was so passionate. I mean, I kind of like backed off a little bit as far as like how many hours and time I put into stuff. But like, I mean, my husband and I would have to have, he, brought up quite a few times, like legitimately, just that I need to be a little bit more cautious of how much I'm on my phone, or like, okay, it's time to put that away, and, family time. And so I think that has been the biggest challenge as far as like trying to manage that, and so that doesn't affect. For a while it was hard on our relationship and trying to figure that out. It's so hard being like I said, any entrepreneur, I think they grind and they grind and they grind for like a while, right? And like it's kind of like, do you regret it or not? Because I don't know, like in some ways I'm like, it helped me be, get us to where we are today. I'm not like, we're not like, we're not making like millions and millions and millions. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, we are like, we're doing good, and where we're at, I don't know that we would be where we are today, had I not kind of grinded, in the beginning. So it's kind of like, trying to figure that out. And I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs will say that, it takes a lot away from family time. So I think more cautious of it now. I don't have to I think I've gotten to a place where I don't have to be as on as I did before. So that's kind of nice. So yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of a different season. So that's probably been the biggest challenge in my opinion.
Yeah, that's good. And yeah, I'm on my phone a lot, but that's not, I was gonna say it, I'm not doing, like that is like your job. Like so I can't imagine, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is like how much you need to be, or want to be engaged. And, I'm sure there's a lot of, I can't imagine how hard you have to work to keep that going.
Yeah, you literally just have to be like, okay, I can't get back to that person, or like, just like turn it off. Like there's always something to do, always. It's just, just turn it off. And when you love something, like when you're so passionate about something like I am, I think that makes it even harder. But like nothing trumps my family, so it's balance. So yeah.
Do your kids understand do your kids understand what mommy does?
I think so. Like if you ask them, they'll say that I take pictures. That's what, well, my daughter is almost 12, so she gets it. My sons, they do a little bit, but that's another thing too, is we kind of backed off on, I mean, they used to take pictures all the time, and they got to a point where it was like pulling teeth, and I was like, this isn't worth it anymore, So I think I was like more like hard-headed before, where I was like, no, we have to do this, and like was very rigid, and it was like, it has to be this way. And like, that's where I'm so like, I don't know if I wasn't like that, if I'd be where I am today, but then at the same time, I kind of regret being as rigid as I was, so I kind of glad that I've kind of backed off, and I'm not as like crazy about things. So it's like a blessing, and my personality is like a blessing and a curse in that way, like I get it done, but it's like, sometimes it's like too much, like over the top.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're 100% right about the entrepreneur thing, because I think and Deb, correct me if I'm wrong, I think anytime we've had someone on the show that is an entrepreneur of some kind, they've said the exact same thing, where it's like, man, you really have to embrace the grind for quite a while, and there's no end. There's not necessarily an end date on when that grind's going to end. Like, you just got to keep going until you finally reach where you're trying to go. And I was even having a conversation with it was Daniel Thomas. He's a athletic trainer in Rockland, and he has his own business and all that. And he was talking about how he's heard a lot of stories of entrepreneurs and their spouses not making it because in that grind season, they're also dealing with the family stuff, and something, if you're not careful, something tends to give. And for a lot of those entrepreneurs that he talked to, it was the relationship or the marriage at that point.
Right.
So,
Right.
which is another cool thing that you guys have shared. We talked about it last time, but the fact that you guys shared so much about your guys' relationship through all of those ups and downs is pretty cool, because I'm sure this is called Connectable. So I'm sure that's something that even if people aren't an entrepreneur and they're doing a 9 to 5, there's still stresses of the workplace. And so I'm sure that a lot of people connected with you on that and how you guys navigated those waters, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a weird world. I'm just gonna say it. Like, it's a weird world you live in, because like I go to the office, and like Deb said, it's like your phone's always with you. And to a certain extent, like, you are the product, right? Like, is that a weird way to look at it? Like, you are kind of the product. And so you can't escape yourself. Like, you're always with yourself. And so,
Right.
yeah, that would be tough.
You literally have to just turn it off and be like, nope. And I didn't before, but like I get, I'm like a brain fart, but I want to check out. Like, I start to get like, okay, it's too much. Like, I don't even want to do this anymore. And I used to not be that way. And I think it's just, I get kind of, gets to be like a little much sometimes if you're constantly on your phone, or I don't know, you feel like something's lacking. Like, I'm more sensitive to, like, can tell my kids need a little bit more attention or whatnot. So
Sure.
I mean, it's like, growing and maturing and whatnot. But yeah, definitely like this season more than the previous years.
Yeah. Have you ever thought, I don't think I asked you this before, have you ever thought about doing like a YouTube thing or a podcast or anything like that?
So, not a podcast. I don't mind being guests for sure.
Oh, that's good. Thank God.
I know, I don't mind to say that. We actually contemplated YouTube one time. We had them reach out to us. I had like a video kind of go viral with my daughter, and
Oh, cool.
reached out, and they were like, we'll provide like the resources. They have like a team, that kind of like helps you like get your foot off the ground. And I was like, nope. Like, because I already felt like with what I do, I can still decide. I mean, like I said, I am more vulnerable, and I do share a little bit more than maybe like the average, person, the average influencer, average fashion blogger, whatever you want to call me. But I can still decide like what my, what's too much and what is appropriate. Like, I can actually I can decide that. With YouTube, I feel like there's no privacy. It's just everything is in. And like I said, the people are brutal over there. And I knew it was going to require a lot more of my kids, and I didn't know how much I wanted my kids to be in. I don't know. I'm just kind of like going through my brain. This was my brain process and deciding. So there was a lot of like, I don't think that it is. And I think I knew that I couldn't put as much time into YouTube as I could with Instagram. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, in fact, I think YouTubers generate way more than like influencers. Like, I think YouTube is literally like that's like the top.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not enticing to me if it's taking away from my joy and my family, and like, I don't know. It's just a different world. I just wasn't really, willing to step there. I haven't even like really gotten into TikTok, and that's like, I need to be there, but I feel a little old for that spot. So
TikTok sucks. I hate TikTok.
Yeah.
I do it because someone suggested I do it for this podcast, and I'm like, they're like, just post the clips that you do on Instagram. I'm like, I do, but I still hate it. It's just it's a dumb world. I'm gonna say it.
Though, like, it is just, and it's not just, I mean, like, it is a lot of young people, but it's becoming more and more like, what are we, middle-aged?
We're still young.
No, we're millennials.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're so yeah.
Yeah, never, I'm not gonna say that. Never mind. Never mind. I was going to make comments about some of the people that follow us on TikTok, not follow us, but like our stuff. And it's like, they are not young. They're not young.
Okay.
That's all. I'm gonna just leave it there. Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll say that too about like my audience, dude. You guys, sometimes they see like these, like, you'd be surprised. Like, it's like, I have a lot of like men that follow me regularly. Watch, they're probably gonna like watch this, but I'm like, why do you watch my stories? Like,
Selfishly, I hope so.
Huh?
No, I said selfishly for our views, I hope so. But for your own safety, no, I don't wish that upon you.
It like you said, I don't know. Like sometimes the people that watch me, I'm like kind of like throws me off. But
that's a very nice way of saying what I was going to say. It's like some of the people are like, huh, this is interesting. I'm not sure why. Yeah, I'm not sure why they're following our stuff. And it's very creepy. It's a very creepy world.
They feel connected. You know, like you start watching someone and you feel connected. But yeah, I don't, you know what? I actually don't have to block people very often. Like, it's not like I get like a lot of like old, like men that are like creepy and like weird like that. They're like genuinely curious. These guys are like genuinely like enjoy watching me. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe they probably like follow Travis or something. I don't know.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah. The only time that I ever block people is if they're coming at me and they're hot and they won't stop. And I'm like, all right,
we're done.
That makes sense. Well, last time you were on the podcast, you dropped the foot pick bomb on us, which was a popular part of that episode. People enjoyed that. They really enjoyed that part of the episode.
That is hot. Like, I literally did not know until I started getting messages that it was a thing. Like, I'm not kidding. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, not for everyone, but I'm just saying, like, for some men that's like what they want. I'm like what?
Sure. Yeah, that was a very popular part of that podcast. People they thought that was hilarious. So thank you again for making that a popular episode.
True. Like, I mean, all my friends and I, we all get it. Every once in a while, I'll be like, can you send me a picture of your foot? And I'm like, what? Like, that's like the oddest thing ever. Like, but people, millions on OnlyFans doing that, you know? Like,
oh yeah. Yep.
Just saying.
Yeah. So they need to check those OnlyFans pages, not Ella Brooks' blog. Yeah.
Have cute feet. Like, you're missing out.
There you go. Yeah. So on a different note, because you do a fashion blog, do you like internally, do you ever feel like pressure, like when you go out of the house, because you've posted some stuff, like people recognize you. I don't know how often it happens, but like you'll be out in the community and people will see you and they follow you and all that. Cause you have a big following. And so is there ever like internal pressure? It's like, okay, I got to make sure before I step out of this house, I have to make sure that I look a certain way because I am a fashion blogger.
Absolutely not.
Okay. That's a myth. All right.
No way. In
fact, like it.
It's like the opposite. I feel like the only reason why I ever care to look somewhat put together going out is because I want to get a picture or a video to share, not because I want to be like I'm put together, but because I want to share my outfit details because they're interested. You know what I mean? It's never like I have to be like that type of a thing. Like, I'm not like self-conscious at all like that. In fact, I actually forgot that I had this tonight, and like an hour and a half ago I was like, oh my gosh. And so like I like put on makeup like real quick, but I was going to say, like, I wear makeup like once a week maybe. Like, I just don't wear it that much. So I mean, I like it, but I go a lot of days without it. So I never feel, if that's what you're saying, like, it's not like I feel pressure ever to like feel put together because of anything. Like,
that was my question. Cause I imagine like, I'm trying to think of a good example. Like if someone had like a fitness blog, right? And if they were looking a little doughy out in the public, when on social media, they're just like ripped, right? Or they're eating a cheeseburger. You know what I mean? Not that it's the same thing. It's kind of like, oh no, I'm supposed to eat like chicken and rice and vegetables. So it's a little different, but you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So that's good.
That's like me. It's like me as a PE teacher. I'm supposed to go out in the world in public in my PE clothes with my whistle and my hat all the time.
That's why I assumed you did. Do you not?
My workout clothes, yes.
I was gonna say, let's not get crazy.
That's like it's these days. That's fashionable.
Yeah.
See, there you go. The hat would be awesome though. If you wore the big sun hat out in public, And the, you know, the whistle is what it is, but the sun hat would be awesome, but not there yet, huh?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, there you go. So, I don't even know how long we've been recording. I told you I would not keep you here very long. I know we got a little bit later start because of we had some technical issues.
Yeah, you're good.
Well, I just want to listen. There's a lot of people out there, you know, of course, as you know, that like are, you know, starting to like want to, you know, be an, I guess, influencer or a coach or whatever. I guess there's different titles on social media of making, you know, your income or however, you know, you do that. And I'm sure people are really passionate about it, but some people like maybe just don't know like where to start or how to, you know, keep getting motivated. And Josh and I talk about the concept a lot about like sometimes they look at their first chapter and then they're looking at your chapter, you know, like you can't compare your first chapter to someone else's like middle of the book, like they've worked hard. So if someone's listening and, you know, maybe they want to have been trying to start getting into that world or industry, what's like a piece of advice that you could give them that maybe you wish someone gave you while you were, you know, in the world?
I think that I would just say, I always say consistency for sure. And I think that part of that probably goes back to like what you said, you know, like people can compare. But I think we live in a very like now world where people want results like overnight. And that's just not realistic. I mean, unless my friends and I always joke, like, if you want to make it overnight, then go on The Bachelor, because that's how these people literally have jobs. You know, like I'm not kidding. I guarantee you half of those contestants, this is not a joke. I literally think that they go on that show so that they can be successful with, and I mean, these people are making good money, you know, they instantly have like hundreds of thousands of followers. Whatever, they played the game. So, but if that's not the case, and you're average Joe, then yeah, you just have to be consistent. And that's really hard for a lot of people. Truly, I think that it is. I think people get very impatient and maybe see someone else, you know, they got the break or whatever, and that they didn't. So consistency. And then I would say also, you have to find something that you offer that's a little bit unique, because this industry is so saturated. What do you have to offer that's a little bit different to, you know, that's a little bit different than maybe everybody else out there? And I mean, yes, I would say it's, you know, everything has been taken, but I'm just saying, like, what flavor do you bring? You know, like, is it your personality or what? So and that's why I keep going back to, like, I've always honed in on being like very real and being very vulnerable. Like that's been me from like, you know, and that's been kind of like the hard part about it, is because I have been very real and vulnerable from the get-go, and I've changed a lot as a person in the past 10 years. Like these people have seen me go from this person to this person, and some people want this person over here. Like they're not okay with the new Mel, they want the old Mel. And so I've lost a lot of people along the way because they're like, no, and I'm like, no, I'm over here now, and I'm not, you know, I'm not, I can't, like, I am who I am. But that's part of like wearing my heart on my sleeve and like being very open and honest about a lot of things that I do share. But I think that actually in the end plays to your favor. I think that being honest and open, and that's, you know, that's always been my thing. And so whatever that is for whoever's, you know, trying to start something new, you got to find what that is and really hone in on that.
Yeah. Love it. That's perfect advice. Just because, yeah, it's hard. I feel like it would be hard out there to start that. And I think you said it took you a couple years to like, right, to like try. And I'm not saying that's, I mean, everyone's journey is different, but probably people can get easily discouraged.
That's a long time. Like really, that's a long time. Yeah. So I get it. And like I said, it's such a now world. Like even as time goes on, you know how it is these days. It's like instant gratification for everything. And so I think people get really impatient and are just, you know, give up. So some people are lucky and like randomly make breaks, but for the most part, hard work and consistency will always pay off. So, right, babe?
Yeah. That's Oh yeah, that's the bachelor thing is a very real thought too. Like I
Yeah.
appreciate you saying that because I've seen some of those clowns have podcasts, and it makes me think like,
you're you're comparing now to what you do.
oh, 100%. I'm very competitive, and I'm like, this guy sucks.
That's
What
hilarious.
what's wrong, Deb? I don't see what's
No,
wrong with this.
no, not what you. It's what you said. Did they have podcasts? I don't know. I don't.
Oh, I think I forgot the guy's name. There's one guy specifically that I heard he was on
Josh,
a podcast. I'm like,
Josh knows his first, middle, and last name.
I don't know. I don't know his middle name. No. No,
Well,
but I've
I
seen it before. And it's like, man, this, or they're guests on podcasts. Like, man, this is tough. But you're right. Like Melissa, you said, it's like you can't fault them because they figured out a way to get their foot in the door, and it worked for them.
it's well, I mean, yeah, and like most, like you said, like instant, because I haven't watched The Bachelor in a while.
I'm not
It's yeah, no, it's like, yeah, it reels you in. But like when I think, in halfway in the season when you would kind of pick your favorites or the ones, oh, I think that girl's gonna go farther, with the guy or whatever. I'd start looking them up on Instagram, and holy cow, they already had like millions of followers. I'm like, what? And
Yeah.
like check the blue check mark, and I'm like, what? It's not even over yet. Like, and so I knew that part. I didn't know they were making podcasts, or I'm sure they're.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Podcast, anything. Yeah.
yeah. They'll jump onto whatever they know is gonna. I mean, all these people are, they're signed with agents that are helping them get money. So yeah, we always joke, like our friends and I are always like, oh my gosh. But I think it's kind of calmed down a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe it's just because I'm not into it anymore. I don't watch it anymore either. I'm like, okay, this show. It's like Survivor. Survivor's been going on for like 20 years. I'm like, at what point are we no longer the Survivor?
Just got to keep going. Now, this is actually like brought an idea to my head. So I'm obviously married, but Deb, you are not. So if you want to help our podcast, get on The Bachelor. Just take one for the team.
Just take it for the team. Okay.
You don't have to be on there very long. Just make a splash.
That's right.
You can you fill the application out for me, and then we'll just go from there.
It
Deb,
says
Deb, I will. So
it's name, and then it says what you do. So when it says what you do, you can put Connectable podcast, and then ding, ding, ding.
There you go.
That's what I'm saying. Melissa, would you like to host a podcast with me? Because this is the kind of thinking that we need. Deb's like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. She's not even willing to go on The Bachelor for our podcast. So if you ever get tired of the blogging thing and the fashion stuff, you have an open guest here. I'll kick Deb out like tonight if you want, because see, that's what I'm talking about. She's thinking about the podcast. And this is only her second time on here.
He's been trying to fire me forever, Melissa. So.
That's hilarious.
I'm trying to get her to show up consistently. So you should feel like honored that she actually showed up for this episode, because sometimes it's a little dicey. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, so just think about Deb, maybe The Bachelor.
I saw Melissa's name and I was like, I have not met her yet. She's already been on. I can't miss this one now. I follow her. Like, I need to be there. So
there you go. High praise from Deb. So, well, hey, like this has been a lot of fun. Like I said, I have so many other questions that I have written down that we'll have to do at another time, because I don't want to just take up your entire evening. But one question I did want to ask you, and we've never asked this question. We've done a version of this, but I wanted to try it out on you. So obviously it's Connectable. We like to get connected with a bunch of different people from different backgrounds, beliefs, all of that stuff. We used to ask if you had a suggestion for us, like someone to go follow, but I'm going to switch it up a little bit. Is there, and this is no pressure on this, but like, is there someone that you feel like we should reach out to as a guest, to be a guest on this podcast? Like someone that that you feel like would be really good on this podcast that we should reach out to join us on the show sometime? That's realistic. Like I would love to have Dave Chappelle on the show, but probably not going to happen. You know what I mean? So
right. I'm trying to think of like our connections as far as like, I'm like, the way that you and I are connected would be through Capital.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm going to have to think on that for a couple minutes.
That's okay. That's not a problem. And if you don't have an answer, that's okay. Like I said, I don't know if I like that question. I thought I'd toss it out there, but
Sorry, totally failed. I totally failed. It wasn't.
No, it's okay. Okay, well, how about this? Well, let's go back to the regular connection suggestion that we normally do. Is there a brand, organization, someone that you feel like we should be following That would be a really good follow for people to be aware of.
For Connectable?
Or just our audience. Like, for example, I think when the first time I had Trav on the podcast, I think he suggested, what was the name? Kingdom Coffee. Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was maybe Nick Bear as well.
I have no idea what that is.
He's a fitness guy.
Okay.
A runner. Yeah, obviously I don't follow him, but he suggested a couple of people. So anything like that, if you have anything for us, or books, any suggestion you have for us.
Give me something. I'm like literally like in my phone right now, like finding out like who I follow that would be good for you guys.
Here's the problem. I feel like you're connected to too many people. Like I don't think we've ever had somebody with this many followers on the show. So that's the problem. You have too many choices. You don't want to hurt people's feelings. I get it. It was a bad question.
No, not a bad question. Connectable. Well, yeah, and I follow a lot of big people.
See, we're happy to take those suggestions too, but we understand they don't have time for us.
Joe Rogan, have you reached out to him?
That'd be fantastic. No, Joe and I haven't talked for quite a while. So
I'll be on your podcast if you get Joe.
That would be awesome. I feel like I would love to know how many. I don't know. He doesn't do very many guest spots on podcasts. Well, I'm sorry. What was your question?
Do you listen to him?
I do. I don't listen consistently, but I do. Like I said, I am a big fan of stand-up comedy. So anytime he has comedy or comedians, some of the comedians I really know and love. I tune in, and it depends on who it is. But yeah, I don't listen to every episode, but I am a fan.
I don't listen to every episode either. I mean, there's so many podcasts out there these days. It's so hard to keep up with everyone all the time. But I'm with you too.
Well, it's kind of like, I was going to say, I was talking to I got invited to speak to a high school career day, and they're like, hey, come talk about podcasts. I'm like, I make no money doing this. Are you sure you want me to come talk to your class? Like, yeah, it'll be fun. I'm like, all right, we'll find out. And so that was the thing I led with. I'm like, hey, I just, I don't make any money doing this, but there's a lot of opportunities, kind of like what you were saying. Like if you find, like, because I know when we first started this, there were some people who were like, I don't know why you would want to start a podcast because there's so many. It's like, yeah, 100%. But, and it's Melissa having kids, like sometimes you tell your kids one thing and you keep telling them that and they don't get it. And then some like teacher or coach tells them, and all of a sudden magically, it's like, oh, of course is how I do it. Like I've been telling you that the whole time. It's kind of like with the podcasting thing or the blogging thing, like they may not appreciate our voices, like myself and Deb on this podcast, but there might be a very similar podcast where they just enjoy those perspectives or those personalities better. There's room for everybody, but like you said, it is still difficult to kind of break through, but
for sure.
Yeah.
You're on track.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. So yeah, we just need to get to the Rogan level would be fantastic.
Yeah,
like 3 or 4 3-hour podcasts a week.
Yeah, like as genius.
Yeah, it's crazy, but no, he's awesome. So maybe one day we'll get him on the show. But anyways, so before we get out of here, where can they follow you? Website, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff.
Right. So my dog's trying to get in the frame. My blog is actually down right now. Oh, there he is. Sorry.
Oh, there he is. Hey, I think he made an appearance last time too. What's up, buddy?
Of course it is. He's literally his shadow. So okay.
We love dogs on this podcast. Not the biggest fan of cats, but I do love dogs.
Travis told you how much he despises dogs?
Really? Trav doesn't like dogs? Hold on.
Dogs. Yeah.
You know this. I have a lot of love and respect for Trav. If he doesn't does he like cats?
No, he just doesn't. He's not an animal person. He's just not an animal person.
That's fine. Because if he's like, I hate dogs, I love cats, and it's like, well, I'm losing your number, bro. I can't have this. I hate cats. I love dogs though.
I'm not a cat person either.
They're worthless, but that's just my opinion.
What was I saying? What was I saying? See, I'm not good.
You're sorry. That's what happens on this podcast. We're trying to get you out of here so you can enjoy the rest of your evening, but I keep,
Oh, good. So my website is down. I'm actually rebuilding one right now. I can't give that. I'll just give my Instagram, Ella Brooks blog. BLO. Easy peasy.
Easy. There's a good chance that most of our listeners are already following you, but just in case you aren't, make sure you follow her. You're an awesome follow. And like I said, I do appreciate that you share your thoughts and opinions and the vulnerability too. Like it is, I have no doubt it's helping a ton of people. A ton of people in their own lives. It's probably just, a tremendous of value to them. So definitely appreciate what you're doing. And we definitely appreciate you taking some time to chat with us. We really do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. And
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, this was fun.
All right, cool.
You're a busy gal, so thanks for coming on and talking with us.
It's all good. It is all good.
All right. And I was full circle. Melissa does not hate me. So we're good.
No, I do not. Not at all.
Thank God. Okay, perfect. Let's get you out of here. Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for watching the show. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure you like it, share it, and hit the subscribe button to get a new episode every week. We'll see you next time on the Connectable podcast.